Hey, and good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
Hey,
Morning.
Justin. Hey,
Hello.
Megan. Hey, Marianne. How you doing today?
Pretty
Good.
good.
All right. I think actually today's a really kind of cool one, a little slightly different, but still in the same vein of our Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We're doing a lot of. This is kind of like where the rubber meets the road of physical and cybersecurity and how they're kind of converged in a really unusual way. But before we dive in real deep, I want to say thanks to everyone who's viewed, liked, subscribed, check out our other live streams, a lot of our webinars. We just uploaded our latest full-length webinar onto identity management for the modern workplace. It just got uploaded up to YouTube. Please check it out. It has a lot of great content about really centering around modern identity management and Azure Active Directory and how it becomes the core identity tool for modern enterprises and modern businesses. So, this is actually really a really important part of, and really under, I think, physical security is really undervalued or underreported. A lot of IT people don't kind of think about it. It's very secondary, but physical security really is a key component of cybersecurity, right? So, Justin, you want to kind of give us a little bit of your flavor of years of doing IT security?
Yeah, I mean the one we always go back to is that if you have physical access, you own it.
Right.
Which not necessarily means you legally own whatever it is, but it means that
Yeah.
if
Finders
you
keepers.
if you can get your hands on something, odds are you can figure out a way to get into it and get something out of it. And
Right.
and because of that, their lapses in physical security can expose your business data, can lead to identity theft, which are obviously major problems.
Yeah. It's one of the things that never ceases to amaze you. Go to a site, everything's beautiful, locked up. They lock the front door, but then the server room is sitting in the middle of the kitchen.
Yeah,
That sort of thing. You're like, wait a second, isn't that supposed to be locked up? So,
yeah,
you know, some of the things that we see a lot is that people leave it's kind of the accidental physical forgetfulness, right?
Mhm.
You
yeah.
know,
It's like the
Mhm.
human error aspect of it. That just comes up. You leave, the computer unlocked, or you leave a thumb drive somewhere,
right,
or even, I mean, we're talking about IT stuff, but this is true for printed out documents as well too. You leave,
Mhm.
binder with all kinds of confidential information on a conference room table. Somebody
right.
else
Mhm.
can pick it up and grab it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
leave it in the printer, don't quite pick it up on time,
that's
Yeah.
right. That
Mhm.
actually is a huge problem,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
it's kind of leaving these behind. I mean, the one I always think about is a laptop left in the taxi cab. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
mean,
Mhm.
I think we
Yeah.
get at least pre-COVID, we used to get probably like 2 or 3 of those a month, where it was like, "Hey, I left my laptop, and what happens now?" And if you're
Mhm.
reading these breach reports, that's a pretty common breach. Is that someone had a laptop, they had thousands of records in an unstructured document, mostly in Excel, and it's just gone. And it's just like exposed. It's like someone's medical records, someone's social security numbers, it's someone's pay. So that's a really big thing.
Mhm.
And Justin, you alluded to that thing about dumpster diving, right?
Yeah. So the other one was where, even if you're not leaving it out, if you throw stuff out, but it's not properly destroyed,
Mhm.
then somebody can just go and grab it. And I, it's, somebody is trying to, at that point, either looking for your data specifically or just looking to see what they can find. And I mean, even just tell you my own history. Definitely at the end of semesters at college, we would, as people are bringing all their stuff to get rid of it, you'd go through and see like, oh, this is cool. I could fix
Mhm.
this, or I could do something with this.
Right.
And we were just looking
Yeah.
for, stereo equipment or TVs and stuff like that. But somebody goes to a corporate park and just sees the stuff that's there and grabs a handful of computers that were thrown out. They may not be looking for the data that's on there. They may just be looking to sell, those
Yeah.
computers or use them. But if the data's there and they find it, they may then change their
Mhm.
mind and use it for something.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
also why it's important when you are retiring a fleet of computers that you do it properly, that you go through the right channels. So, I mean,
Mhm.
you can contact us to ask us for information on that, but there are
Right.
proper ways that they're going to, ensure data destruction. So
Yeah, it could be a hard drive, it could be a thumb drive, it could be how many thumb drives are sitting around in unlocked drawers in offices, or like I go to a Valiant storeroom and look in there and kind of shudder. I know none of our stuff in there, but it might have been client stuff that people picked up over the years. You got to be really thoughtful about that sort of thing, and just be like, destroy. If you don't know, destroy it. That's the kind of thing. And actually, the last one is the kind of classic, theft. I know a place I worked kind of have the classic shoulder surfer, someone kind of right behind you, getting into the space. You're not challenging them. People are polite by nature to hold the door open,
hold the door.
and everyone kind of does it. And what happens is the a laptop piece or a piece of equipment gets stolen. That could be, and essentially if it's someone really knows the layout or really looking for something specific, they could really truly steal something important. So
yeah, there's been stories, and again, this is more pre-COVID than right now, but certainly stories of people, say coming up saying, "Hey, I'm a messenger. I'm here to pick up something," and just let them like, "Oh, okay, yeah, here," and grabbing stuff,
Right.
or coming in for something and just grabbing something on the way out. It's
Mhm.
again, not necessarily targeting your data at that point, just grabbing something. But
Right.
once they have it, if they have access to data, it becomes another source of uh, of income for them to make use of
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. And then the last big physical kind of piece that I think we had to really bring up is this IoT kind of future device problem or challenge, not really a problem.
Mhm.
It's something to be solved. Some of the numbers that we've seen in some of the research is that the idea is that there's going to be 75.4 billion devices by 2025. Now, there's only 6 billion humans. Right.
That puts it
So
in context.
yeah, let's put it in some context, right? So
Yeah, but that
some
includes light bulbs and every Alexa
correct.
device in my house. Oh no, I woke her up.
Yeah, don't do that. Or your car, everything has
Yeah.
it. So and kind of keeping with our cybersecurity awareness month, we want to we have a great little kind of put together video from our partner from Stay Safe Online. And Matt, do you want to put that up right now? Awesome. Well, thanks, Matt, for rolling that up. So as we saw, some of the numbers that are staggering in terms of the 5G rollout, the number of connected devices. But right now we were only at 75 million. Using that kind of math, we're looking at a lot more. So kind of where does that take us? I guess is really the question we got to ask ourselves. And I think just kind of saying it, cybersecurity and physical security are really one problem, right? So. You guys want to kind of walk us through what the next steps are for that?
Yeah, you need it's one problem because they're both part of security. You can't have one without the other. They have to be things that are informing each other and working off of each other. If you have all the cybersecurity, identity management pieces in place, but somebody can just walk in and use your computer after you've logged into it, it's all out the window. It's like putting, which is the part of the door that's locking it. Is it the bolt, or is it the door, or which? It's all of it. You need all of it together.
Right.
The same kind of thing.
Right.
I know we talked a lot about identity management in our webinar that we did, that I think is up. Yeah, there it is.
It's on
That's
YouTube.
the-
Yep, it's on YouTube now
we
for
can-
anyone who wants to view it.
But yeah, having that identity management in place is critical. Having the physical security around that is critical as well.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And and the other thing is, I think that a lot of times people don't have as much sort of process around. They've even less process than they're on the IT or on their physical space in some way, because people just kind of come and go in offices. I mean, how many times I don't know about you, Justin, how many times, or Marianne, maybe you walked into an office and say, "I'm here to see so and so." You kind of stand in you kind of standing there. There's no one there even challenging you, asking you.
I mean, I'll give you a great social engineering story for that. Was I was going to a client once and in younger days, and I'm going in to do work, and I get to the front desk, and the security officers at this front desk were particularly strict and said, "Oh, you're don't work here. You can't come in unless you have somebody to vouch for you." And called up and nobody answered. And I said, "Well, yeah, of course he didn't answer. I'm here to fix the phones," which was not true, but I just wanted to get in, and he let me in. So
Right.
that's it's easy enough to get into a space like that,
Right.
and get access to things that way. And I
Right.
think in the past, it was a little harder, because at least if I walked into an office, there's probably somebody there who's going to say, "Hey, who are you? Where should you go?" I mean, I know in our office when we were all there, somebody walks in the front door, there's at least eyesight of 3 different people.
Actually, I'm gonna say the whole office stops moving for a second when
Right.
someone walks in the
Like,
door.
What?
Yeah.
It's like, what's that? Why the doorbell ring? Who's there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, if somebody walked into the office, and I mean, who's there with you, George? You and Stefan,
It's me and
and
Steph. I'm hiding out in my office, and Stefan's hiding out in the front of the office. And
if
we kind of
somebody
wave at
walked
each
in,
other.
yeah,
If someone walked in right now, I mean, even this morning, Stefan didn't expect me to be here this early, and he's like, "Who put the lights on? Like, why?" You got to fear a little bit, because but in a normal scenario, you would people don't challenge folks, especially the bigger the office. It really does happen and stuff. So
yeah, especially if it's a place where you don't know everybody that works there. I mean,
correct.
we're small enough that you have a name and a face to everybody that's there. But if you work in an office with 200, 300 people, you could never know who else. Somebody shows
Correct.
up on your floor. How do you
Oh
know
yeah,
that they're
definitely.
supposed to be there?
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and a lot of times it's, you can easily look the part. I know there was like a humor video where these guys just put on high vis vests, and they were able to get into places to, even they sometimes didn't even have to say like, "Oh, we're doing some work." They would just walk in like, "Oh, free movie," stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I mean,
Yeah.
that was done for comedic purposes, but it's actually true. If you're wearing the right T-shirt, you can get in. I mean, how many times have I accidentally wore red to Target and been asked where something is?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's very
I've
true.
been mistaken for the bouncer because I was wearing a black T-shirt and and dark jeans, and it's
Yeah.
you can.
But yes, but yeah, tying this in with tech, it is important to make sure that you have that physical security, because as we were talking before,
Right.
if someone can get access to it, they can get access to it.
Correct.
All of it. But yeah, definitely there's a convergence which needs to take place, and that's also because a lot of our physical security is becoming tech related and all that stuff as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And some of the systems that we see, I mean, years ago, everything was so separate. It was based on like, electromechanical systems and magnetic locks. And now every one of those pieces are really an IoT device that's connecting to a network somewhere. And not only does it have, we have to protect it from a cybersecurity perspective, but now it's tasked with protecting the facility. So now it's gotten much more complicated. And like I know many of our sites that we work on, or we work in even our own office, has a an internet connected or network connected keyless entry system. that uses a bunch. You're right. So
and that's perfect example.
It's a great way to do it, but you have to think about what it's doing, right? So
so there's a perfect example of where they converge, and like you said, where they're protecting each other, because the keyless entry system, so you key fob or you can use your phone or something else to get and unlock the door. That key system either is cloud-based over the internet or controller-based locally, but in either way, if that key system is on your network, you're providing a network connection to that. And part of that network connection is by its nature outside of your office. So you need to, for example, ours, we've got the key fob is outside of the office where you fob into it. And behind it is it's plugged into a network cable, which is going into a segment of our network that's locked down specifically just for this key reader system, and only allows access for those devices that are there, and then only allows access to the sites and services that those key readers need. So the key reader is protecting somebody from coming into the office physically, and the network is protecting the key reader system from being used as a jumping off point to get into the rest of our network.
And what's nice about key reader systems or fobs is that they log activity. So, and each fob, and this goes back to our identity management piece, where ideally you're using the similar attributes of the person that they have allowed to have access to the office, be it at various times or various access door control. And the beauty is, like, if someone leaves the organization, you can shut the key fob down without having to retrieve the key. That's always the problem. The classic example is like, well, someone left the company, even if it's mutually, everyone's happy, it's good, it's a easy termination or leaving. You still have to lock, you still have to retain your security, because the key has no log. You don't know when the door opened. You don't know when they got it.
Easy to copy.
You don't have to change the locks.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you do, but you're doing it digitally. It's a lot easier than
correct.
physically changing locks every time you gain or
And that closes the gap kind of what Justin was saying with the social engineering. Like, say the security guard doesn't question that guy because he's seen him, the person who got let go, because he's seen him walk in every day. Cybersecurity can catch that, like in that gap, but we have to see that reciprocity, I think.
You really have to put them together, exactly. And
right.
I think
it's like two-factor authentication to get into the building.
Correct. Actually, Marianne, that's spot on, because in the proper setup, you would have someone locked out of the elevator so that you couldn't even get to your floor. There's a lot of ways you can do this thing, but it's so anyway. We're not talking about New York, but I think our next thing that we see a lot of convergence is around IP PoE video security cameras. That's a massive growth. I mean, the old days, it used to be like heavy duty coaxial cable. It had to be installed by like a professional installer, quote unquote. And now the space has got exploded into everyone's is the Ring doorbells, and there's a kind of a strange separation between the commercial, very high end kind of equipment and the home consumer equipment. And the consumer equipment is like super innovative, and the price is like minimal, but then you get commercial equipment, but it has to do a very specific task, and it's different, and it's built differently. But Justin, you want to go through some of those, how those work? I mean, what we see in the marketplace.
So the when it comes to the cameras, they're in the corporate environment. There really are two flavors of them: either just straight network, where you've got some kind of DVR or local storage, or a pure cloud based. And there's pros and cons to both. I like the cloud option for a couple of reasons. It makes it really easy to manage. It makes it easy to control. You can drop the cameras in anywhere. You don't have to worry about having recording and storage locally. It does. You can get to it from anywhere. But the idea for both of these systems are the same: is that you have sort of. Right now, somebody walks into the front office. How would we know that somebody's there if we're not there? Well, we have a camera that has motion detection on the door, so we get an alert that says somebody's opened the front door. And on days when George and Stefan are in the office, we have to turn those alerts off because we get them every time they walk past.
Wow, sometimes I have to use the restroom. It's okay.
And every time you do, I know your comings and goings. So
come on, Justin, I like you keep tabs on me. I feel safe.
But it's our system is not super complex. We're doing, but there are systems that then tie into the key reader system, and this is
Correct.
becoming more and more, I think, useful, especially given the prevalence of like facial recognition software being used as a way to track people through your camera system. But now everybody is wearing masks. That no longer is a trigger that, hey, this person shouldn't be here. It's that person's doing what they're supposed to do. So having a key system that ties into the camera system can be super beneficial. You can do things like, I saw that key card, 1234 fobbed in, bring up the camera of that time and see who that person was. Like, okay, well, this must be Bob because that's Bob's key card, and it looks enough like Bob that we can track him and figure out that that's him.
Right. And then if you want to get more sophisticated, you tie it into their login to their workstation from the IP address of their location, their geo IP, and you can get really like keep going. Unfortunately, you can keep going on a rabbit hole of this, but the key and it's really it's just a very good, unfortunately cameras generally are a post event solution, right? I mean, they're somewhat preventative because people see them and they're like, well, man, I won't commit a crime or something wrong in front of a camera, but generally speaking, it's like after the fact. So but tied in with the door control, it really can become an effective solution, I think. And I think the last one, I think that Justin brought up when we were discussing this earlier was disk encryption. And it's such a great place because disk encryption protects you from the thing that is the most common thing that's going to happen if something's stolen. Piece of
or lost. Yeah, your example earlier of the laptop left in the taxi cab. There's two answers to that question as to what do we do. One of them is, well, you already, the disk was encrypted and it's password protected and it's locked down, so we'll set up an alert if it comes back online to wipe the machine, but otherwise you can just assume that it's gone but your data is protected. Or you don't have those things and the answer is, well, there's really nothing you can do, because if somebody gets the machine, you can't stop them from getting access to that data.
Correct. They can remove the hard drive, they can just do it, and people, especially when they see something that's that they may discover what they have, especially if someone's knowledgeable. So
and the way encryption works, there's really two types. Full disk encryption and then a file level encryption. Full disk encryption are things like the Apple has one built in. Was it File Vault
and BitLocker?
Microsoft is BitLocker. There's also third-party ones that have other management built into it. But the idea is that there's either a chip or some data in the computer uses to verify that that basically has a decryption key that verifies that it's connected to that specific computer, and then it allows it to decrypt the hard drive. If you take the hard drive out, plug it into another computer, you can't read it because it's all encrypted, so it's all nothing. Without that key, you can't get into it.
Right,
and similar to like cell phones do that too.
Interesting enough, that's one of the big differentiators between kind of like lower end laptops and higher end laptops is that encryption chipset. That when people kind of ask us like, well, why is this laptop that much more expensive than this one? It's like, well, it has this encryption key set that if we agree to put it on, this is how you would use it. So I mean, you can do it without it, but it's a good piece of hardware that ensures its outcome. So.
And then the other level is like a file level encryption. And this you can do with services like Azure Information Protection from Microsoft. What this does is let you encrypt a specific file, just that file. And if that file gets copied to a thumb drive, emailed, whatever else, it's still encrypted. So this is another level of protection too, if you don't have the full disk, or if you want to protect a specific document or specific data set, regardless of where it's logged into. So for your example earlier of somebody that left the laptop in a cab with an Excel document full of confidential information, is that considered a breach? Not if it's all encrypted. You can say, well, it's not breached because it's encrypted. There's no way for somebody to get access to it without cracking the password. So no, that doesn't constitute a breach.
Whereas, especially if you're multi-factor on it.
Yeah.
You keep going.
Yep. Yeah. You keep going. Yep. Whereas the other way, if somebody left it, does that constitute a breach? Well, you can't say for certain one way or the other, so you have to consider it a breach and say, yeah, that data is no longer secure because we can't verify that it's still secure.
It's outside your asset control.
Mhm.
So we have a great, actually, as always, Mr. Stephen Cal gave us a great question. Hi, Steph. With so many manufacturers in the IoT marketplace, is it important to keep your multiple devices all coming from the same manufacturer, or can you mix and match? Man, that is the age-old question, Steph. That is. Yeah, we'll take a crack at it, Justin. I mean, I'll let you go first on this one.
Yeah, the biggest things to keep in mind with security for IoT is not necessarily the manufacturer, not necessarily what the device does. It's one, whether or not the device gets frequent updates, frequent firmware updates, and whether or not you know how to do that. Because let's say a manufacturer discovers a breach on or a vulnerability in the system, and they issue an update for it, you need to apply that update in order for it to take effect. So that's one. And secondly, what you really should do is build your own IoT network. So you don't have your IoT devices on the same network as your other systems, your other data. If the IoT devices only need access to the internet, you can make a separate Wi-Fi network, make a separate wired network, lock that down so that it can communicate with the internet and nothing else, or the internet and its base station and nothing else, or whatever it needs, and leave it at that. And that way, it's if something like that is compromised, the device is compromised, but it doesn't spread to the rest of your network. In terms of the actual manufacturers themselves, it's down to, you can mix and match the devices as long as they work together, as long as the manufacturers is a good one.
Yeah, that's good news for me.
I think,
Yeah, and I know we did, and just to comment, I wrote a blog post about this a while back, I think probably before the pandemic, but it was maybe less focused on the security aspect, but also a component of that question, Stefan, is will the devices talk to each other? Like how is that gonna work? And so we do have a blog post about that if you guys want to see.
That's right. Check it out. Awesome. Exactly. I mean, and just the kind of segmentation of the network is the trick. That's the first. That's your first and most important defense. So, just kind of getting things moving. As we've seen so many different companies rely on so many different systems here. It's a big patchwork of stuff. It actually talks it kind of addresses the IoT thing. So I think just to sum it up, if you don't have good physical security, you're going to have a bad time of cybersecurity. So it really has to be hand in hand. It can't be the classic like, well, it's not my job, I don't know anything about that. As the facilities guy's responsibility. I think all IT folks have to kind of shall we say, get involved and get started and ask the questions. And I think the other thing is I think some management teams need to really be aware of these scenarios. Not only for their employees, like safety in their facility, but just from the potential cybersecurity breach loss. I mean, if we're so worried about having this strong perimeter, but but this is part of the whole defense in depth idea and getting things in order. So besides that, do you guys have anything else for today?
No, I think we pretty much covered it.
Right. So we're just scratching the surface of this one, and we might be coming back in the future. We'll be coming back to this the whole idea of the IoT and the converged network and deconverged network and segmentation. So we're just scratching the surface, but we really just want to get the idea across: physical security, cybersecurity, hand in hand. And and definitely want to do cybersecurity health checkups. If you guys we really do talk about that quite a bit. Check that out. We can take a look at review with you some of where you are today and some of the next best practices for where we think the gaps are and how to resolve them. So please check that out on our site. We have a pretty good comprehensive overview there. And beyond that, please check out our live streams. And if you have questions, send them to us. We really love to answer them. And so this is kind of the end of our cybersecurity. When it was a much longer cycle. So what we're doing in our next cycle is really kind of kicking off the new year right. or getting prepared for kicking the new year off right. Which I think which is a whole process, and there's a lot of stuff going on. So we're gonna have a lot of like real practical nuts and bolts of what to do from an IT perspective to get ready for a new year. Also, just practical advice. So if you have people have questions on what to do, please send it to us. We really want to talk about it. I think next month, the next live stream, I think budgeting is our first topic, or how to get started on budgeting. Budgeting is a complex topic, and it's not one we could probably do in a half an hour, but we're going to scratch the surface and just kind of give you a good starting point.
An overview of what things to consider and things
exactly.
like that.
Just where okay, you've been tasked with this. Where do you go from
Where
here?
do you start?
Yeah.
Where do you start?
Big job. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, with that, everyone, I want to say thanks. Marianne, Megan, Justin, thank you for today. It's always great as usual. And I can't wait to do it next week with you guys.
Yeah.
And definitely remember, cybersecurity is everyone's job, and stay safe online. Thanks a lot. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Bye now.
Bye. Thank you.